Donald Trump has invited India to join the board of peace on Gaza. While Trump's move might underline India's position as a global player, there still is a lot of confusion on what Trump's board of peace actually means. Besides India, Putin's Starmer, Albany's Erdogan and several others have also been invited. Trump has also invited Pakistan to join his board. As per reports, Trump administration is asking countries to pay $1 billion to join the board, initially made to push for Gaza's rebuilding. Trump has hinted that he wants this board to work in favor of all future peacemaking processes, something that should be the job of UNSC. So is Trump attempting to replace the UN Security Council? And if $1 billion is the criteria, how can Pakistan join? And if a payment is the only criteria to join, does that mean that even North Korea and Iran can put together $1 billion and join Trump's board? Joining us live, Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, former diplomat. Major General Gigi Dwivedi, Strategic Affairs Analyst, is live with us. Pramitpal Chaudhary, South Asia Head, Eurasia Group, is joining us live. Professor Madhav Nalapat, Editorial Director of the Sunday Guardian, is with us on the broadcast as well. Professor Nalapat, what should we make of Donald Trump's offer to India to join the World Peace Board? What does this tell us about India's position in the global world order? What does this tell us about Donald Trump's outlook towards India? And what do we really know about this peace board?
Look, let's be honest, it's a crazy idea, and no one is going to take this so-called peace council or whatever it is seriously. The fact is, Donald Trump just announced to the government of Norway a short while ago that he's no longer committed to a policy of peace because you denied the Nobel Prize. And now he's setting up this kind of a board and asking for $1 billion price tag for permanent membership. There's no need to pay $1 billion because anyway, it's only a 3-year term. Otherwise, you have to pay $1 billion. 3 years is the maximum Trump can stay in office in the White House. So I don't believe we should pay that $1 billion at all. And as for this so-called peace, 60 countries have been invited to join, and he, some of them will shell out that $1 billion. Of course, Trump will have full control over it. The reality of the situation is that in Gaza, for example, there's no prospect for peace between Israel and Hamas. It's either one or the other, and Israel will make sure it is not Israel but Hamas. In many of the conflict zones, there is almost irreconcilable conflict taking place. And so this peace committee, what will it do? Nothing. And what kind of value will it have? Nothing. Nobody will take it seriously. No one at all will take it seriously. It is another one of the fantasies of President Trump. And, first of all, you invite 60 members. Then you have a permanent membership for $1 billion. This is beyond absurd, frankly. And the reality is, no one, even assuming there are some so-called peacemaking trips, none of them is going to fructify. What has happened in Gaza? Is there peace in Gaza? Is there peace in Ukraine? Donald Trump has been president for 1 year. Has he been able to bring peace in Gaza or Ukraine? And now he's threatening the entire European Union by saying that he wants to take over Greenland. This is beyond absurd.
Right.
Totally absurd. In my view, we can join as a 3-year term, and that is Trump's term, but that's about it.
Yes, and the fact, of course,
seriously.
Yes, the fact, of course, is, Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, that this was first supposed to be a board for the governance of Gaza. Tony Blair and others were talked about as who would be the constituents of the board. Now, with its role being expanded and its sort of responsibilities being moved far beyond Gaza, what is really the objective of this board is also the question that many would ask, Ambassador Kapoor. Is this an attempt to rewrite the world order? Is this an attempt to replace the UN Security Council as well? Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor.
Yes, thank you. And it's, there are a lot of new paradigms of diplomacy emerging almost every week, if not every day. And this is also one of those proposals coming up for Board of Peace. It also fits in with the America First philosophy. And basically, it's a proposal which is quite transactional, quite results oriented structure, whether it's an alternative to UN or the UN Security Council is the big question. The UN, as we have seen, is quite defunct in so many ways and quite irrelevant and quite ineffective. And particularly with India not being a permanent member of the Security Council, even more so. Now, this is like a peace for prosperity coalition. Like earlier, they had coalition of the willing and other such formats. So this is a new uh, sort of world order, global governance entity being created or proposed. It's like a private equity, firm for global stability to finance peace or provide the military security muscle to enforce it for faster results in high stakes conflicts by passing the UN. The initial statement was that it will initially focus on the Gaza issues and then move on to other aspects like Ukraine and South China Seas and others. And Trump would probably be president for life. And if you either pay in cash or you can pay in blood, as some people have commented, if Pakistan, for example, provides peacekeeping forces and security for Gaza next phase, then they may be exempted from this payment of $1 billion. What is India's reaction? For India, the UNSC permanent member thing is, in continuous jeopardy, I would say. So it doesn't make any forward movement because of China's opposition and some issues like that. Now, to in the past also we have never really got into these sort of entities or organizations, and India's focus has to be on Atmanirbhar Bharat and Viksit Bharat. And but in terms of not saying no to the proposal, what I would do if I were the foreign minister or prime minister, I would say that let us propose an observer plus sort of status with a very specific focus for India on economic reconstruction, for example, and on maintaining global South leadership. So rather than through military partnership or peacekeeping aspects. So that way we keep the conversation going. We say that we are happy to support this proposal under the Observer Plus status. We'll see how it plays out for the next few months. And in the meantime, the momentum for the November elections is already building up. The approval rating for the Republicans have gone down. President Trump himself said that if the Republicans don't wake up and shake up, he'll be impeached after November if they lose the majority in the two houses, and particularly if the Senate gets, Democrats get more there, and if the House of Representatives also they get more, the impeachment process can start immediately. So he has given a wake-up call to the Republican Party. So we have to, at the moment, keep the conversation going. We have to sort of not say no to the proposal, not say yes to the proposal, but sort of propose the status that we will come in on the margins to support you, and we are willing to
Yes.
put in some sort of money
Yes.
into it, but more as a bank guarantee,
Okay.
as a bond,
Okay.
not as
So that's how
hard
you believe we
cash.
should look at this. That's how you believe we should look at this. Major Deviti, come in here. If it really is a peace sport and its role is going to continue beyond Gaza, well, there is a war happening, and reportedly Kremlin says that Russia has also received an invite to be on this peace board. Well, they're currently fighting a war. Donald Trump is upset with them. He slapped tariffs because of our buying oil from Russia, which he's upset about. But now Russia comes on to this peace board as well, reportedly. If we take reports from the Kremlin and from sources in Russia on face value. Tomorrow, then, does this mean that perhaps Iran, North Korea could also be on this peace board if they cough up $1 billion? Then there's Pakistan also, which reportedly has got an invite. And we all know how far from peace they are.
Well, Uday, we need to comprehend President Trump's psyche. And he has projected himself as the global peacemaker. And that's not only in verbal terms, because in December last, the the American national security strategy has categorically mentioned that President Trump is instrumental in stopping eight wars, and currently he is also engaged in mediating between Egypt and Ethiopia on the Nile water issue. Now, the point is that Board of Peace is something not come out of the hat, because when President Trump he had mooted his 20-point peace plan, it was in two phases. One was to bring immediate cessation of hostilities between Hamas and Israel, and the second was to have a board of peace for the next phase, that is the reconstruction of Gaza and also for the future of Palestine. So the point is that how this is being orchestrated, again, we need to understand what are the thought process of President Trump. In fact, he has lamented on number of occasions that his peace proposals are not being supported by the UN, and he has withdrawn from a number of the global bodies. So therefore, President Trump possibly is looking at an alternate to the UN, and also the alternate to the UNSC. And of course, he is basically a corporate person, so everything he wants to monetize or commercialize. So therefore, he has also put a label of $1 billion. But then that is only for the permanent membership and not for the first 3 years. Now, the point is that how many countries will pitch in, how many countries will not. But the point is, no one wants to actually get on the wrong side of Trump, because they know that for that there can be a very severe penalty or at least loss of face. Now, as far as India is concerned, we can pitch for the, peacekeeping forces. After all, India had contributed in Gaza earlier times, and also today in Lebanon, we have some peacekeepers. So India can quite voice that, yes, we can contribute as far as the peacekeeping is concerned. And the second point is, it's better to be part of the larger gathering, because not to get left out, because Pakistan is trying to gain ground every day. In fact, I think if I may not be very off the mark, that Pakistan have pulled off some great, diplomatic military initiatives, like signing, defense deal with Saudi Arabia, selling the JF-17 to Indonesia, Saudi Arabia. So the point is that it's better to be on the table and at least support this initiative as far as the peacekeeping is concerned. And my last point is, you see, uh, this proposal, I don't think will die down very easily, but it has a expiry date. That expiry date will be when President Trump, he demits the office, and therefore I don't think anyone is going to contribute the $1 billion, because that is only for the permanent membership after 3 years. So all I can say is this is one more gimmick President Trump has actually thrown into the ring, and people will be reacting
Yes,
as per the national interest. But my
yes.
last point is that it cannot be just shelled away. There will be some takers, but those takers will be, again, who want to pursue their own national interest rather than looking at the
Right.
Gaza
Who,
peace or
who
the
all do you
global
feel
peace.
then, Pramit Pal Chaudhary, who all do you feel then will actually end up signing up to this peace board constituted by the United States of America? And what should and will perhaps determine India's response to this proposal, this invitation, which has, of course, been formally sent to us, given to us by the United States ambassador to India on behalf of the US president?
I'd expect most countries would say yes, just on the grounds that they don't want to get Mr. Trump unhappy. As the Major General has correctly said, there is no financial obligation until after 3 years. So it doesn't really have any major cost to you. The number of countries that have already been invited, besides the ones that have been mentioned, include everything from Paraguay to Turkey to Egypt to Canada, Argentina, Thailand. The list seems to be keep growing. And so it's not even, as you said, there is no clear basis for who's joining, other than President Trump seems to like your country or thinks you're interested. Um, so I think for a lot of them, it's just that this is an opportunity to talk to the US president. Given his tendency for whimsy, perhaps it's also a good way not to get on the wrong side of him. What seems to be noticeable so far, however, is that no European country seems to have been invited that I know of. Um, And we still haven't heard about China, whether China is going to be part of this or not. So the crux of this right now is really nothing more than President Trump has made this announcement, uh, as if nothing more than as a personal favor to him. A lot of governments will agree. If nothing else, an opportunity to have a summit, if you wish, an informal summit with them every now and then. But after that, I don't think there's any structure to this. There's no clear indication of what it can or will not do. And there's no question, there's also uncertainty as to what, if it's supposed to supervise both a Gaza ceasefire, will it be running, for example, the peacekeeping unit that they're planning, the troops that they're planning to set up? Unlikely, because I think a lot of the governments that send soldiers there will basically refuse to have their soldiers under the command of something as nebulous as this. And also, if Trump plans to do this reconstruction of the Gaza, where will the funding will come from, and does this board of peace have any role to play in that? That'll be another issue because funding actually will have to come into play when that happens. Also, so far missing is and it doesn't look like too many of the major Arab states are involved, and we have to see if the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, especially at a time when UAE and Saudi Arabia are daggers drawn, decide to join. But joining is easy. The question really is, does this mean anything? And the answer is probably not, not at least at the rate that it's being put together.
Okay, let me in fact quickly also go back to you, Professor Nalapat, on this attempt. Do you believe, if at all, to reconstitute the UNSC? The UNSC has been panned, been criticized for their lack of reform. Should they also look inwards now, if they are being possibly seek to be replaced by this sort of body by the US president?
Look, there is no question of this replacing the UNSC. Whether it is working or not, the UNSC is there, and in any such Security Council, the differences between countries, when they are very extreme, it is going to fracture. The UNSC is fractured, Russia and China on one side, other three permanent members on the other. And of course, the US is now floating one side or this side. But the fact is, Donald Trump is picking a fight with everybody. It's now the European Union and the UK about Greenland. Has he brought peace in his own United States? Not at all. The streets of so many cities are being basically, protesters are multiplying against the high-handed methods used by ICE. And those methods, frankly, are very, very authoritarian, and basically they can shoot at sight and shoot to kill. Nobody asks any questions. The Homeland Secretary, Kristi Noem, always defends them. So, frankly, I'm very happy that there are so many optimists here, but the reality of the situation is this particular committee is going nowhere. It will soon be replaced by another fantastical proposal, and Trump will forget about this, and when he forgets about it, that's it. Of course, Trump's method of running an organization is full control. He wants that in the US government. He's trying to enforce that throughout the US government, but even there, he's not being very successful. So the reality of the situation is, frankly, nobody will take this so-called council seriously, and nobody will take Donald Trump seriously when he talks about peace, when he's told Norway that he has now given up the policy of peace, and he has brought peace nowhere. And as for Gaza peacekeepers, where is the peace? Hamas is still around, and as long as Hamas is around, Israel will continue to see Gaza as a legitimate target. What happened in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia? Nothing. What's happening in Syria? Civil war. The Alawite community is being butchered. The Kurds are being butchered by the Al-Shara, who was formerly Al-Jolani. And as for Pakistan, it's not going to come to a peaceful conclusion with India. It's always unreasonably demanded state of India, which is not theirs. And unfortunately, in the early part of this formation of this country, we allowed a part of it to basically split away. But again, the fact of the matter is that this fantasy will last only as long as Donald Trump does not have a new fantasy. And when he does have a new fantasy, this fantasy will just dangle in the air.
Okay.
Thank
Do you believe India is likely to accept this invitation, Ambassador Kapoor? In your opinion, is that what you expect from most countries who do get this invite?
Well, it is difficult to predict how the government of India will react to this proposal, but I think they are not going to give a negative response at all. Either it will be a neutral response or it will be a muted positive response. That we are, looking at it, we are considering it. But what I would suggest to the government is to say that we want to come in under the status of observer plus, in the sense observer has no powers, the observer plus will have powers of participating in economic reconstruction and contributing in that dimension, because India has very strong capabilities for development, particularly for the global south. Like in the Middle East, there'll be a lot of reconstruction required, and India can play a very major role in that. So that sort of response would be good to keep the dialogue going, to keep the conversation going, and not to shut the door, but not to jump into it in a way that will backfire later.
Okay.
So we have to just play it in a low key.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll leave a quick last word to you before I end. Vijay Dwivedi, I'm almost out of time, and then I'll just give 20 seconds to Pramit before we close.
Thank you. I think India's response will be positive. It will be affirmative.
Yes.
And second point is, you see, UN has given a mandate to this proposal till 2027. So it's not that it's totally out of the UN Charter. And my last point is that Italy Prime Minister Meloni has already said that she is willing to join in. So also Canada. So a couple of others will also join in. Well, so it's not totally out of the head. But the point is,
and we must ask the question. We must ask the question, Pramit Pal Chaudhary, can Pakistan afford $1 billion to join up for this board? And if they can afford $1 billion, well, where is that money going to come from? And shouldn't then the IMF and other bodies see this money as well? If they have money for this, why ask for loans for their doldering economy?
Well, they don't have to pay $1 billion for the first 3 years. It's only after that they'll have to be looking at that possibility. And as others have mentioned, by then President Trump's presidency term will be coming to an end. So it's questionable if the Board of Peace will even survive at that point. So I think for most countries, the $1 billion promise or offer, it will be a moot point.
Okay. All right. Let's leave it at that. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us. We'll, of course, be watching this.